Ready to go. I'm going to open it up here. I think we're the last two members of this group.
Did everyone else drop?
I don't know. I've never heard back from anyone else. And then he sent out an email that Michael was looking for another group for a different time slot. All right, let me know when you got the quiz open.
It's open.
Okay. Did you get a chance to go through the reading for the week?
Yeah, I did the reading, and I did like the first 2 pages of the quiz.
Cool.
Um,
Well, let's see what we got then.
Oh,
So first question.
wait, sorry. So in that group message, Michael, wait, what's today's date? Oh, wait. Yeah, Michael said to send the link, so he should be joining us.
On the one for tonight?
Yeah, he sent it at 6:44. He was like, awesome, thank you, send the link, please.
Oh, he must have just responded to you only because I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. But we could keep going, and then we could catch him up at the end, actually, so.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and I sent it out to everybody, so.
Yeah.
He must not have been able to get in another group.
All right.
All right. So for question 1, assume for Guatemala that the domestic price of coffee without international trade is higher than that of the world price. It suggests that Guatemala has comparative advantage over other countries and will export. They have a comparative advantage and will import. Other countries have a comparative advantage and Guatemala will export, or other countries have a comparative advantage and Guatemala will import.
I put C, but I don't know if that's right.
So on this one, because they're
What one are we on?
Number 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I put C as well.
Since their price is higher, the other countries have a comparative advantage, but because the price is higher, once they open up to international trade, the lower price of international trade will make it so they import, I think. Because the world price is lower, so they're going to have to lower their price. Is that right? I'm going back in the textbook to that section there.
I'm going through the slides, the PowerPoint.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Hey, Michael.
We're still just on the first one.
Oh, okay, let's go.
So what did you give on the first one, Michael?
Let's see here. Let's see. For that one, I chose other countries have a comparative advantage over Guatemala in the production of coffee, and Guatemala will import coffee.
Okay. Yeah, so when I'm looking at the textbook, if you guys look at if you get into the interactive textbook, when it shows exporting and importing, when a country exports, it's because the world price is higher than their equilibrium price. And when you're importing, if you look, it shows the world price is actually lower than their equilibrium price. So when they drop the price, the local manufacturers lower their supply. So they rely on imports to fill that shortage. So the imports actually fills up that section on the chart. So I'm pretty sure it's D on that one.
Okay.
All right, who wants to read number 2?
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
Suppose the nation of Canada forbids international trade. In Canada, you can obtain a hockey stick by trading 5 baseball bats. In other countries, you can obtain a hockey stick by trading 8 baseball bats. These facts indicate that if Canada were to allow trade, it would export hockey sticks. B, Canada has an absolute advantage relative to other countries in producing hockey sticks. C, Canada has a comparative advantage relative to other countries in producing baseball bats. Or D, all of the above.
So you can obtain it by trading 5. So their opportunity cost is 5 bats, where other countries, their opportunity cost is 8 bats. So they do have a comparative advantage. And if they have a comparative advantage,
I put A.
I think, well, because it is A, because they would export, but if they export, that means they also have a comparative advantage. And then if you look at it,
So then it would be D.
I think it's all the above. Because it doesn't specifically say that they have an absolute advantage in producing, but if you compare that it's 1 hockey stick for 5 baseball bats, I guess that we could make an assumption. But if A is true, which it looks like it is, then
So if A is true and C is true, then B has to be true. Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above because I think A and B look true to me.
All right. Who wants to read number 3?
I can do that one. Patterns of trade among nations are primarily determined by. I put comparative advantage.
Is Ryan back?
I agree.
I put comparative advantage as well.
Perfect.
Sweet. Easy.
Michael, you want to read number 4?
Yep, I got it. Sorry, the birds in the background. After a country goes from disallowing trading coffee with other countries to allow trading coffee with other countries, I said the domestic price in coffee will equal the world price of coffee.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
You guys agree with that?
With C?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I put.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect. All right, I'll read number 5. The before trade domestic price of peaches in the United States is $40 per bushel. The world price of peaches is $52 per bushel. The U.S. is a price taker in the market for peaches. If trade in peaches is allowed, the United States will become an importer, will become an exporter, may either become but cannot be determined, will experience an increase in both surplus and consumer and producer surplus.
They'll just become an exporter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put B.
Yep.
All right, sweet.
All right, number 6. Who wants to read it?
Trade enhances the economic well-being of a nation in the sense that I put A.
Domestic producers, domestic consumers.
Yeah, so like both domestic producers and domestic consumers of a good become better off with the trade, regardless of whether the nation imports or exports the good in question, or the gains of domestic producers of a good exceed the losses of domestic consumers of a good, regardless of whether the nation imports or exports the good in question. Trade results in an increase in total surplus, or trade puts downward pressure on the prices of all goods.
So I'm kind of confused on this one because in the reading, it talks about that the gains of the winner overcome the losses of the loser, and that in every situation, either the producer or the consumer wins. So having a little trouble understanding the answers there, I think.
I'm looking about a surplus, but C, but
and you might be right because it talks about, if you look at the charts on like section 9. Let's see here. It shows no matter what, if you've got a higher world price, then it creates a surplus for export, and if you have a lower world price, then it creates a surplus for import, or shortage for import, I guess. So, but it doesn't. We know it doesn't put downward pressure on the price of the goods.
Yeah.
Gains of domestic producers of a good exceed the losses of domestic consumers of a good, regardless of it. So I don't think B is true either, because the domestic producer doesn't always their gains don't always exceed the losses of the domestic consumers, whether you import or export. And A is not right, because both producers and consumers of a good don't become better off with trade, whether it's import or export. So I think it's got to be C.
Yeah, that's the one I was leaning towards.
All right. Well, I say we just roll with it.
Yeah.
So for question 7, we got a market for tricycles in a country here, showing the world price. Country allows free trade in tricycles. We know that the supply is going to lower. So we'd say consumers gain and producers lose, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Because
put.
you're dropping your supply down because they're going to make less money. They're going to import a whole section there, and then the consumer's getting it at a lower price.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. I'll read on for number 8. When a country allows trade and becomes an exporter of a good, which of the following is not a consequence? Let's see. I went with C on this one. It says the losses of domestic customers of a good exceed the gains of domestic producers of a good.
So, it's not a consequence. Price paid by domestic consumers of good increase. But would the domestic consumer, would their price for the good increase? Because if they become an exporter, that means their price is higher. Or no, never mind. You're right. The loss of the consumer is the good. Yeah, I'm thinking totally backwards. Okay, I agree. Because the consumer would end up paying more money because they're going to be set to the world price.
Okay. Well, we go with C.
But wait, no, I'm backwards still. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going back and forth here. So when it says it's not a consequence, that I think C is actually the consequence, because the domestic consumer is going to pay more money for the good, and then whatever they're not willing, because what's going to happen is their quantity demanded is going to lower because the price raised, and then that surplus that gets exported is going to make up the gap for the supply for the consumer, because the consumer is going to up their supply. So that's actually true. So what wouldn't be a consequence? I think it's A, because the price paid by the domestic consumer of the good increases. Wait,
No.
no, they would pay more.
I smelled that smell before.
My phone.
You want to call?
Sure.
No, it's my phone.
I don't know. I'll just go with. I think Michael's on the right track. We'll just go with C because I'm lost on that
Okay,
one.
yeah, I'm confused as
I think,
well. on this
I think
one.
I'm just getting myself all spun out. I think you're right. So on the next one, question 9, with trade, producer surplus is.
This one's 900, right?
We got 300 to 9, so it'd be 600. Oh no, there's not. It's not even an option because it's going to be the area of that triangle in the center there. So it's going to be. Let's pull up the textbook. So with import. So producer surplus is going to be after trade. It's section C. So we got to pull the area of section C of the triangle, which is the lower left. So that's going to be $300 times 300 times 6 divided by 2. Yeah, so it's $900. That's what I just got. Is that what you said before?
So yeah, in the 900.
Yeah. Did you guys read that section on? That's all. Yeah, the formula's all set up in the importing and exporting sections of the textbook on where to calculate your areas for surplus and all that for each one.
Yeah. Just going back to it right now. Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
But for number 10, we do the same thing, but it's without trade. Consumer surplus is going to be the area of what they lay out as triangle A in the reading. Surplus is triangle A. So for 10, I use the same thing and I got 845. Is that what you guys got? Did we lose Kyle?
Oh, He said that his phone died to give him a second.
Okay.
And yeah. Yeah.
All right, we'll wait for Kyle to get back on.
Kyle's phone charging.
I'm looking ahead on 11 because we got to do the same calculations while we're waiting for him to get back on.
Looks like 1870.
So when you're calculating G on that, did you end up just calculating G is lopsided, so one leg of it's longer, so you can't just use a normal area formula. So what did you use for that?
So you're saying it's not quite at 30?
Well, not just that. So if you look from the tip, 30 to 40. So the right side of the line, the triangle, is 10, but the left side of it is 12. So you can't just divide it by 2.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but I guess I can just go 12 times. Well, it must have not made a big difference because I got 1870 when I did it. Is that how you did that? Michael, is that how you calculated that?
Sorry, yeah, the base times the height.
Did you just? So I was gonna say, I guess it was close enough on those because I ended up breaking it into two triangles and having to do it out and everything. I don't know.
Right.
$70, so I think we're solid.
Okay.
Keep moving along. I don't know if Kyle's like hand charging his phone or what.
Yeah, let's go. I don't have.
So for 12, when a country moves from free trade to trade and a tariff, consumer surplus. Consumer surplus.
Well, at least we know it's going to decrease by something.
So it's going to be, so D, the triangle on the left there, that goes from old price with free trade to new price with tariff. I guess it's consumer surplus. So I think on that one, because we just got to find the area of both. Is it both deadfall or dead weight losses? Consumer surplus.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, I'm overcomplicating it here, like usual. So the consumer surplus is going to decrease by. I feel like none of these numbers make any sense because it's asking us in like relation to like $576, but our price on the left here is in totally different numbers.
Okay, so the country moves from free trade to free trade. Consumer supplies. When the
Because we know that demand is dropping, domestic demand drops, and domestic supply increases. So we know that obviously our choice is decreases for consumer surplus, and producer surplus is going to increase. So it's got to be one of these 192 deals. I just don't know where they're pulling the number, how we calculate 576 or 792 from the numbers on the chart here, you know.
computers. Okay. I'm just doing an online meeting right now.
Oh, no, it's 28 times.
I was talking to you. Hold on.
Who that?
4. So we know, so if you multiply quantity by price, then we know that the domestic demand increases, the surplus increases by 192. I've calculated that. So then if we take 20 times 20, 400, and then 28 times.
Yeah, take it.
28.
Um,
It's going to increase. It says it increases by 384. Or decreases by 384.
Still toss between the 792 and the 576.
okay, so I could like turn it in and do B, and if it's not B, then we know that it's D.
Yeah.
But,
I just always get hung up on stuff. I hate not knowing.
So it looks like here the next question. How do you say that? Aquiliona is now looks like higher in the steel market.
So when it ends its trade restriction, it discovers that it is importing rice, exporting steel, and neither importing nor exporting TVs. We can conclude that the producer surplus is now. So if they're exporting steel, that means that they have a higher surplus in the steel market, because anytime the price line moves up, then it's going to increase the producer surplus, decrease any kind of imports. Won't change at all. So I think it's A. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's what I was leaning towards. Yes.
I'm with A too.
Okay.
Oh, are you really with me?
I'm sorry. Oh, what are these?
All right, let's move on to 14 then. Figure below illustrates tariff on graph. Q represents quantity and P represents price. The deadweight loss created by tariff is represented by the areas D and F.
Yeah.
That's what I was just reading when I was overcomplicating that previous question.
I agree.
The loss created by the tariff.
Why are you so bougie?
So it's going to move it from a horizontal line across 40 to a horizontal line across 60. So it's going to decrease imports and increase domestic production. We'll figure out by how much here. Go
20.
from
Yeah.
600 to 900. Yes.
You.
So I'm thinking it'll increase or it'll decrease imports or increase domestic production by 300 units.
I'll be having this.
And then demand will be at
Oh, hold on. Wait, oh, you're fine.
it'll be at 900. And
So
600 imported as opposed to so it'll decrease imports by 600 and increase domestic production by 300, I think.
number C.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna be back by then.
I don't understand. But
You want to show me what you're doing? Maybe I can help.
All right, so for 16,
they seem to know what they're doing.
and 400, 200,
What did I say? Dominant?
Domestic supply.
Oh, I got it.
100 times 1. So I guess we would just calculate up the import, which it looks like is going to be 200 units imported with the tariff. And then we multiply it by the tariff price, which is 1. And so it'd be $200, right?
Mm-hmm.
General agreement on trades and tariffs was initiated in response to I didn't read this section in the book. Did you guys read that?
Okay.
I remember reading it, but I need to go back and see what it said. I got myself.
So the high tariffs
So it's saying on the PowerPoint, it just has it marked as one of the trade agreements.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, it just says it was one of the trade agreements. It doesn't say anything about it. So in the reading, here we go. Which contains a series of negotiations among many of the world's countries with the goal of promoting free trade. The United States helped to found GATT after World War II in response to high tariffs imposed during the Great Depression in the 1930s. So it is number 4.
I got that. Yep. And infant
It's
industry
just so you know. Thanks for the warning.
is based on the belief that protecting industries when they are young will pay off later.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I put A for 18.
Yep.
Which of the following arguments is often advanced?
So I know there's a section on national security.
That's what I remember as well.
Yeah, I think we just go with that one. Because there's a section in the textbook talking about opponents of free trade often argue that the industry is vital to national security, protected. Yeah, I think that's it. Go for 20. Economists view the fact that Florida grows oranges, Texas pumps oil, and California makes wine as
Okay.
information of the virtues of free trade, because we have free trade between states.
Yeah.
Well, so when it talks about free trade, does it talk about like I always thought it was like international free trade, or does domestic?
That's what I'm saying is because we don't have any kind of it's an implied free trade, like states don't enact tariffs on stuff from other states. So
Yeah.
by showing that it allows each state because each state can specialize in something,
Yeah.
it's a confirmation of the virtues of a free trade agreement,
I
because it allows each state to focus on something instead of every state having to produce everything of their own.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let me just plug these in.
Okay, let's hear it. How do you say hello?
All right, I'm going to submit it and see how we did. 19 out of 20. The one we missed was.
It doesn't say. That's the.
It's question 2. It was that it was if Canada were allowed to trade, it would export hockey sticks. And we said all the above.
So I never filled in 14. What was that one?
D and F.
And then for 12, did we say the 792 or 576?
For 12, we said 576 and increase by 192.
Yeah, I think I probably just briefly.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast.